I found out my husband was cheating on me the night my best friend hugged me a little too tightly and whispered, "You deserve better." At the time, I thought she meant it with love, but now I know it was guilt, because just hours later, I saw the messages. Not rumors, not suspicion, proof. My husband, the man I built my life with, was sleeping with the one person I trusted more than anyone else. And the worst part? They weren't even hiding it well. They thought I was too blind, too dependent, too weak to ever do anything about it. So I didn't confront them. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled. I played the role of the clueless wife perfectly, while I quietly started documenting everything, every message, every lie, every secret meeting, because what they didn't know was this. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to make sure that when their world collapsed, it would be by my hands and it would be completely, legally devastating. Before all of this, I truly believed I had a good life. I was married to a man I trusted completely, and my best friend had been in my life for almost a decade. She was the person who held my hand through my worst days, who stood beside me at my wedding, smiling like she was genuinely happy for me. Looking back now, I wonder how much of it was real and how much of it was already a lie. My husband and I weren't perfect, but we were stable, or at least that's what I thought. We had routines, inside jokes, plans for the future, and my best friend was always there, woven into every part of it. Dinner nights, vacations, late night calls. She was practically family. That's why I never questioned it when they started spending more time together. I trusted them both without hesitation. I never imagined the two people closest to me would be the ones quietly tearing my life apart behind my back. But the truth has a way of revealing itself. And when it didn't just hurt. It changed me completely. The first real crack didn't come from something obvious. It was small, almost forgettable. A late night message that lit up my husband's phone while he was in the shower. I wasn't the type to snoop. I never had a reason to. But something about the way the screen kept lighting up over and over again made my chest feel tight. When I finally glanced at it, I didn't even unlock the phone. I just saw her name, my best friend, and a message that said, "I miss you already." At the time, I laughed it off in my head. They were close. We all were. It wasn't weird, right? That's what I told myself as I put the phone back exactly where it was, convincing myself I was overthinking. But something had already shifted inside me, a quiet voice I couldn't ignore anymore. After that, I started noticing things I had never paid attention to before. The way he would suddenly step out of the room to take calls. The way she would avoid eye contact with me sometimes, especially when he was around. The way they both seemed just a little too careful, like actors trying not to break character. It was subtle, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Still, I didn't confront them. I needed more than a feeling. I needed certainty. So I waited. A few days later, we all met for dinner like we usually did. She sat across from me, smiling, laughing, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand like nothing in the world was wrong. And my husband sat beside me, his arm casually resting on the back of my chair, playing the role of the perfect partner. Anyone watching us would have thought we were happy, that we were solid. But I started paying attention to the small details, the quick glances they thought I didn't notice, the inside jokes that didn't include me, the tension that only existed when I was looking directly at them. That night, when we got home, I did something I had never done before. I checked his phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type in his passcode, but I knew it. Of course I did. I was his wife. I opened his messages, and there it was. Not just one message, not just something I could explain away. Pages of conversations, days, weeks, maybe longer. Flirting, plans, pictures, things no wife should ever have to see, things no best friend should ever send. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me, like everything I thought I knew about my life was just gone. But I didn't cry, not then. Instead, I read everything, every message, every detail. I forced myself to see the truth in full, no matter how much it hurt, because I knew one thing in that moment. I wasn't going to react emotionally. Not yet. I put his phone back exactly where I found it. And when he walked into the bedroom, smiling at me like nothing had happened, I smiled back. Because that was the moment I decided they weren't going to get away with this. From that moment on, everything changed. But only for me. On the outside, I became even more loving, more attentive, more perfect than I had ever been. I laughed at his jokes, kissed him goodbye every morning, and texted him sweet messages throughout the day. I called my best friend just to check in, asked her about her life, and made plans like nothing had changed. And they believed it. That was the most insulting part. They truly believed I was still the same clueless woman they had been lying to for weeks, maybe months. But behind that version of me, something colder had taken over. I stopped reacting and started observing. I began documenting everything. At first, it was just screenshots of their messages whenever I could access his phone. Then it turned into something more organized. I created a private folder, backed everything up, and started keeping track of dates, times, and patterns. When he said he was working late, I noted it. When she suddenly became busy at the exact same time, I noted that too. It didn't take long before the pattern became obvious. They weren't even being careful. They had gotten comfortable, careless, confident that I would never question them. That confidence was their biggest mistake. One afternoon, I told my husband I had a headache and was going to lie down. Instead, I left quietly 10 minutes later and drove straight to my best friend's apartment. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out, but I forced myself to stay calm. When I got there, his car was parked outside, right in front of her building. No attempt to hide it, no fear of being caught. I sat there in my car for a full 5 minutes just staring at it, letting the reality settle in completely. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion. This was a full-blown betrayal happening right in front of me. But I still didn't go inside. Instead, I took pictures. Clear ones. His car, the building, the time. Then I drove away like I had never been there. That night, when he came home, he kissed me on the forehead and asked how I was feeling. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Better." And for the first time, I felt something shift. Not pain, not sadness, control. A few days later, I took it even further. I suggested we all go on a weekend trip together, something fun, something normal. He hesitated for just a second before agreeing, and she was overly enthusiastic, like she needed to prove something. Watching them both say yes so easily, knowing what I knew, made something inside me harden completely. They weren't just betraying me, they were comfortable doing it right in front of me. That trip became my turning point, because while they thought it was just another chance to play their game, I saw it as the perfect opportunity to collect everything I needed. And by the time that weekend was over, I wasn't just a wife who had been cheated on. I was a woman building a case. That weekend trip was where everything became undeniable. We rented a small house just outside the city, the kind of place that was supposed to feel peaceful. Quiet mornings, shared meals, laughter echoing through the rooms. And on the surface, that's exactly what it looked like. We cooked together, watched movies, took pictures like we were just 3 people enjoying a perfect getaway. But underneath it, there was something dark and twisted happening, and I was the only one fully aware of it. By then, I wasn't guessing anymore. I was watching them. Every move, every glance, every excuse. The first night, I pretended to fall asleep early. I even slowed my breathing, keeping my back turned to him as if I was completely out. About 20 minutes later, I felt him shift beside me, slowly, carefully, like he didn't want to wake me. Then the bed dipped as he got up. I waited, counted to 30. Then I got up too. Silent, steady, my heart pounding in my ears. I cracked the door open just enough to see down the hallway. And there they were, in the dim light of the living room, standing way too close to each other, whispering, smiling, like this was normal, like I didn't exist. I pulled out my phone and recorded everything. Not just a picture, not just a guess, clear video. His voice, her voice, the way he touched her like he used to touch me. It felt like something inside my chest was being ripped apart, but I didn't stop recording. I didn't make a sound. That moment broke something in me, but it also solidified everything. The next day, I acted like nothing happened. I laughed with them over breakfast, asked if they slept well, even teased them about staying up late talking, and they played along so easily. That's what made it worse. The lies came naturally to them, effortless, like I was just some background character in their story. But I was done being in the background. By the second night, I pushed things further. I suggested we open a bottle of wine, sit together, and just relax. I poured their drinks myself, making sure they were just a little stronger than usual. Not enough to make anything obvious, but enough to lower their guard. And it worked. Within an hour, they were laughing louder, talking more freely, forgetting to be careful, forgetting about me. At one point, I excused myself and walked away, leaving my phone behind, camera on, angled perfectly toward where they were sitting, hidden in plain sight. I stayed gone just long enough. When I came back, they had moved closer, too close, their voices softer, more intimate. And when I later watched the footage alone, I saw everything I needed. The touches, the words, the confirmation that this wasn't new, this wasn't a mistake, this was a relationship. By the time that trip ended, I had more than enough proof. Messages, photos, videos, patterns, lies stacked on top of lies. I had built something solid, something undeniable. And the most terrifying part? They still had no idea. As we drove back home, my husband reached over and held my hand like everything was normal, like he hadn't just spent an entire weekend betraying me right in front of my face. I squeezed his hand back and smiled, because what he didn't realize was this. I already had everything I needed to end him.
When we got back from that trip, I didn't rush anything. That's the part most people get wrong. They think revenge is about acting fast, about exploding the moment you have proof. But I had already waited this long, and now I had something stronger than anger. I had patience, and more importantly, I had leverage. The very next week, I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. I didn't tell anyone, not my family, not my friends. I walked into that office alone, sat down, and laid everything out. The messages, the photos, the videos, the timeline I had carefully built. I watched his expression change as he went through it all, piece by piece. By the time he looked back up at me, there was no doubt in his voice. What they had done wasn't just betrayal. It gave me a powerful legal position, and I intended to use every part of it. From that day forward, everything became strategic. I stopped seeing my husband as my partner. He was now someone I was preparing to dismantle. I gathered financial records, documented our shared assets, and quietly made copies of everything important. Bank statements, property documents, insurance policies. Every detail that tied our lives together, I made sure I had control over it. He didn't notice. Why would he? To him, nothing had changed. I was still the same wife who trusted him completely. At the same time, I kept playing my role with my best friend. I invited her over, I smiled at her, I listened to her talk about her life like she wasn't actively destroying mine. And every time she looked me in the eyes, pretending to care about me, it only made what I was about to do feel more justified. Then came the final step. I chose the moment carefully. It was a normal evening, quiet, routine, predictable, the kind of night they both felt safest. I told my husband I had made dinner and asked him to invite her over. He didn't hesitate. That alone told me everything about how comfortable they had become. Within an hour, she was sitting in my house again, laughing like she belonged there. We ate together, talked, smiled, and then, when the moment felt just right, I ended it. I stood up, walked over to the TV, and connected my phone. At first, they didn't understand what was happening. They just sat there, confused, watching as the screen lit up. And then the video started playing. The room went silent. Every secret, every lie, every moment they thought they had hidden was now right in front of them. His face drained of color, hers froze completely. Neither of them could speak, neither of them could even look at me. And I just stood there, calm, steady, in control. When the video ended, I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I simply looked at them and said, I know everything. The silence that followed was suffocating. But I wasn't done. Because what they didn't realize yet was that this wasn't the destruction. This was just the beginning. The excuses came fast, but they didn't matter anymore. My husband tried to speak first, stuttering over words that meant nothing, while my best friend just sat there completely frozen, like she couldn't process how badly everything had just fallen apart. I didn't argue, I didn't react. I simply let them talk, and then I ended it with one sentence. I've already filed. That's when the real panic set in, because while they thought this was just exposure, I had already taken it further. The evidence I collected didn't just prove betrayal, it gave me the upper hand in everything that followed. The house? Mine. The assets? Protected. His reputation? Destroyed the moment the truth came out in the legal process. And her? She didn't just lose a friend, she became known for exactly who she was. In the end, they didn't end up together like they thought they would. Turns out, relationships built on lies don't survive the truth. As for me, I didn't just move on. I rebuilt stronger, smarter, and completely in control. So if you're watching this thinking revenge is about anger, it's not. It's about timing. And if you ever get betrayed like I did, don't react. Plan.